All India Radio presents Morning News. Good morning. I am Sarabjit Kaur and with me is Saira Mujtaba. The headlines. More than 54% voters cast their ballot in second phase of Bihar Assembly election. Americans vote to elect new president. Close contest on the cards. National COVID-19 recovery rate reaches close to 92%. Odisha bans sale and use of firecrackers in the state. Navies of India, US, Japan and Australia begin Malabar exercise in Visakhapatnam. And in IPL cricket, Sunrisers Hyderabad seals playoff berth by thrashing Mumbai Indians at Sharjah. As the nation fights the COVID-19 pandemic, we begin with a message of precaution to stay safe and protected by following these three simple steps. Wear face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. Now the news in detail. In Bihar, campaigning for the third and final phase of elections will come to an end tomorrow. In this phase, 78 constituencies spread over 15 districts, including Kishanganj, Katihar, Madhepura and Supol, will go to polls on the 7th of November. Polling for by-election to Valmiki Nagar parliamentary seat will also be held simultaneously. Stalwarts of BJP, RJD and Congress are addressing series of election meetings. Leaders of left parties including Rashtriya Lok Samata Party, RLSP and Hindustani Awam Morcha, HAM, are also busy in addressing rallies and road shows. More details from our correspondent.
Senior BJP leader and Union Minister of State for Home, Nityanand Rai said during RJD rule, industries were closed, but in NDA rule, various industries are set up and employment provided to people of the state. Addressing election meeting in Muzaffarpur, JDU President and Chief Minister Nitish Kumar said development will win this election. On the other hand, RJD leader Tejaswi Yadav alleged that there was no development during the last 15 years. Migration of people is continuing and no measures have been taken for flood fury. In an election rally at Madhubani, LJP President Chirag Paswan claimed people of a state have decided to change the regime. Krishna Kumar Lal, AIR News, Patna.
Voting for by-elections to 54 assembly seats in 10 states also took place yesterday. The states are Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, Uttar Pradesh, Jharkhand, Karnataka, Odisha, Haryana, Chhattisgarh, Telangana and Nagaland. Voting for Valmiki Nagar Lok Sabha seat in Bihar and 4 assembly seats in Manipur will be held on 7th of November. Counting for these seats will also take place on 10th of November. In Madhya Pradesh, the electorates participated in the democratic process actively in the by-elections to 28 assembly seats yesterday despite the corona pandemic. 69.74% polling has been recorded in the by-polls. Voting for by-elections to 7 assembly seats in Uttar Pradesh was completed peacefully yesterday and no report of any untoward incident came from any place. In Haryana, voting for by-poll in Baroda Assembly constituency of Sonipat district also passed off peacefully. Around 68% polling was reported as per preliminary data received from various polling centres. In Gujarat, 56.85% voter turnout was recorded in the by-elections for 8 assembly seats. The by-election to Sira and Raja Rajeshwari Nagar Assembly constituencies passed off peacefully in Karnataka yesterday. RR Nagar Assembly constituency is home to many film actors from the Kannada film industry. In Chhattisgarh, about 77% voter turnout was recorded for the Marwahi Assembly by-election yesterday. 286 polling booths had been set up for polling. The electoral fate of total 8 candidates was sealed in the electronic voting machines. Polling was by and large peaceful. In Madhya Pradesh, BJP and Congress have made their claims of victory in the state after nearly 70% voting was recorded in the by-elections held in 28 assembly seats yesterday. Senior leaders of both the parties have called the high turnout a verdict in their favour. A report.
As per the official information, the highest turnout of more than 83% voting recorded in Agar and Badnawas seats, while the lowest 48% polling has been recorded in Gwalior East. Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan thanked all the voters of the state for the huge turnout. Former Chief Minister Kamal Nath has also described it as a victory of the people. Meanwhile, former Chief Minister Digvijay Singh has again targeted the BJP over EVMs. Sanjeev Sharma, AIR News, Bhopal.
Americans are voting in one of the most divisive presidential polls in decades, pitting incumbent Republican Donald Trump against Democrat Joe Biden. The election is being held amid the coronavirus pandemic and a long and bitter campaign. More than 100 million people had already cast their ballots in early voting. The U.S. appears on course for its highest turnout in a century. A report.
74-year-old Donald Trump and 77-year-old Joe Biden spent the final hours of campaigning in key swing states. Both candidates used Election Day as an opportunity to drive home the messages they have been hammering to voters for the last few weeks. The two rivals have radically different policies on key issues. They have clashed bitterly during the campaign over how to handle the COVID-19 pandemic and how to best handle the economy during this difficult period. Earlier yesterday, Mr. Trump said he felt good about his chances of victory and predicting he would win big in key states such as Florida and Arizona. Joe Biden visited his childhood home in Scranton in Pennsylvania, a key swing state, and said the middle class built this country and the backbone to this country was restored. Americans do not vote directly for the president. They choose members of the Electoral College who then meet in December and cast their votes based on how the majority of voters in their state had voted. The number of Electoral College votes for each state are fixed on the basis of its population. There are 538 Electoral College votes and a candidate needs at least 270 to enter the White House. Tanvi Khurana, News Desk.
Indian Americans are one of the fastest growing communities in the United States, and their participation in politics has increased significantly in the recent years than ever before. The Indian American electorate is expected to make a considerable difference in the U.S. presidential polls this time. The Indian diaspora in U.S. is a 4 million strong community. Both the Republicans and Democrats have been making all-out efforts to woo the Indian Americans ahead of the elections. The Howdy Modi event last year was attended by 50,000 Indian Americans at Houston's NRG Stadium, where U.S. President Donald Trump joined Prime Minister Narendra Modi in addressing the diaspora. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris is the Democratic Party's nominee for the vice presidential post. She was born to an Indian mother and a Jamaican father. Ms. Harris has attempted to strike a chord with both the African American and the Indian American voters ahead of the elections. Our correspondent has filed this report.
Both Republican and Democratic Party are leaving no stone unturned in reaching out to the Indian American community. Indian Americans are the second largest immigrant group in the U.S. after Mexicans. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, Google CEO Sundar Pichai, former PepsiCo CEO Indra Nooyi are some of the notable Indian Americans. New York has the highest population of Indians, followed by Chicago and Washington, D.C. Democratic Party candidate Joe Biden's campaign issued a manifesto targeting Indian American voters. U.S. President Donald Trump's campaign recently shared an online advertisement with images of Prime Minister Narendra Modi with President Trump at Howdy Modi event. The affluence and influence of Indian Americans in political circles have grown, and these efforts are geared towards securing their votes. Suparna Saikia, AIR News, Delhi.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will chair the virtual Global Investor Roundtable meeting tomorrow. The roundtable is being organized by the Finance Ministry and National Investment and Infrastructure Fund. It is an exclusive dialogue between leading global institutional investors, Indian business leaders, and the highest decision makers from the government and financial market regulators. Finance Minister, Minister of State for Finance, RBI Governor and other dignitaries will also be present on the occasion. The roundtable will witness participation from 20 of the world's largest pension and sovereign wealth funds with a total assets under management of about $6 trillion. These global institutional investors represent key regions including the US, Europe, Canada, Korea, Japan, West Asia, Australia and Singapore. The event will witness participation of key decision makers of these funds. Some of these investors would also be engaging for the first time with the government. Apart from global investors, the roundtable will also see participation of several top Indian business leaders.
The Health Ministry has said the national COVID-19 recovery rate is nearly 92% and the cumulative positive rate is 7.4%. Weekly positivity rate is 4.4%, while daily positivity rate is 3.7%. Briefing the media last evening, Health Secretary Rajesh Bhushan said cases per million population are at 5,991.
अगर केसेस पर मिलियन पॉपुलेशन देखे जाएं तो हम 5,991 केस प्रति 10 लाख की आबादी पर हैं। हमसे जो बाकी देश हैं वो कहीं ज्यादा हैं, तो ये भी एक संतोष की स्थिति है। यदि आप मृत्यु प्रति मिलियन पॉपुलेशन देखें तो भारत में 89 डेथ्स पर मिलियन पॉपुलेशन है, जो विश्व का औसत है वो 154 है और अन्य देशों में ये 600-700 तक भी प्रति मिलियन डेथ्स हैं।
Active cases are around 5,41,000 now. The Health Secretary said a declining trend has been observed for weekly new cases over the last 7 weeks, which registered a major fall. There are a few states where active cases are on the rise in November as compared to October. Manipur now has 3,500 cases from the previous 2,000. Cases in Delhi have increased to 33,000 from 26,000. In Kerala, cases have increased to 86,000 from 77,000. Gujarat recorded 954 new cases in the last 24 hours. Recovery rate of the state has reached up to 90.78%. More from our Ahmedabad correspondent.
Gujarat has recorded a total 1,75,633 cases till now. Out of these, 1,59,448 patients recovered. 1,197 patients recovered in the last 24 hours. More than 62,10,000 tests have been carried out in the state till date. Maximum 198 cases reported from Surat, while Ahmedabad recorded 166 new cases. At present, total active cases in the state are 12,451. Out of which 61 patients are on ventilator. 6 patients died yesterday, taking the total death due to COVID-19 up to 3,734. Yogesh Pandya, Air News, Ahmedabad.
In Bihar, COVID-19 recovery rate has improved to 96.30%. This is more than the national average. The number of active cases in the state is continuously declining. Currently, 7,000 patients are undergoing treatment at various hospitals. 875 patients have recovered in the last 24 hours, while 846 new cases were reported. Over 210,855 patients have so far recovered from the infection in the state. In Tamil Nadu, the COVID-19 curve continues to dip, with the active caseload falling to 19,201. The new cases in the last 24 hours have come down to 2,435, including 669 in Chennai. More details from our correspondent.
The total recoveries in Tamil Nadu crossed the milestone of 7 lakh yesterday, against the total infections of nearly 7.32 lakh. The state health department says the test positivity rate has come down to about 3.5%. It says the waiting time to know the RT-PCR test results has come down from as high as 4 days in the past to just about 10 hours now. About 80% of the tests have been done in government laboratories without any fee. Jai Singh, AR News, Chennai.
Talking to All India Radio, senior medical expert Dr. Anupam Prakash has talked about the vital role of vitamin C regarding boosting immunity, especially to fight respiratory diseases and infection of coronavirus in winter season.
विटामिन सी जो है शरीर की इम्यूनिटी को बहुत बूस्ट करता है। इसकी एंटीऑक्सीडेंट प्रॉपर्टीज भी होती हैं। ये जो हमारे रक्त में जो सफेद कोशिकाएं होती हैं, व्हाइट ब्लड सेल्स जिनको हम कहते हैं, ल्यूकोसाइट्स कहते हैं, इनकी जो संक्रमण करने वाले कीटाणु हैं उनको भी ये ज्यादा खाने में मदद करते हैं और जो लड़ने की क्षमता है व्हाइट ब्लड सेल्स की उनको भी बढ़ाता है। जो घाव होते हैं वो भी जल्दी भर जाते हैं। जितने भी ऑक्सीडेटिव प्रोसेस है, जितने भी हमें जो कीटाणुओं को मारने के लिए जरूरत पड़ती है, उसमें भी इसका बहुत फायदा देखा गया है। तो जो ये कोरोना भी करता है, जो निमोनिया भी और अपर रेस्पिरेटरी ट्रैक्ट इन्फेक्शन जो है, नजला जुकाम, तो उसमें खास तौर से विटामिन सी मददगार साबित हुआ है।
You are listening to the morning news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. More than 54% voters cast their ballot in second phase of Bihar Assembly elections. Americans vote to elect new president. Close contest on the cards. National COVID-19 recovery rate reaches close to 92%. Odisha bans sale and use of firecrackers in the state. Navies of India, US, Japan and Australia begin Malabar exercise in Visakhapatnam. And in IPL cricket, Sunrisers Hyderabad seal playoff berth by thrashing Mumbai Indians at Sharjah. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle @AIR News Alerts.
News Services Division of All India Radio brings to you program Employment News in association with the Publications Division, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. An effective platform for information on job vacancies, training programs, admission notices, results and career advice with experts. Every day at 4:20 p.m. on FM Gold and other frequencies and on our YouTube channel AIR News Official.
चलो मिलकर एक शुरुआत करें, चलो एक फैसला आज करें, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे, चलो एक इरादा करते हैं, चलो खुद से वादा करते हैं, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे.
Welcome back. The Odisha government has banned the sale and use of firecrackers in the state from the 10th to 30th of this month. The decision has been taken in view of the potentially harmful consequences of burning crackers amidst COVID-19 situation and the approaching winter season. A report.
Firecrackers release copious amount of toxic gases like nitrous oxide, sulfur dioxide and carbon monoxide which negatively impact the respiratory health, particularly of the vulnerable groups like the elderly, the children and those with comorbidities. The practice may also give an additional push to the concentration of suspended particulate matter in the air, particularly during the upcoming winter, thereby impacting the respiratory health again. Any such deterioration of the air quality may have a corresponding deleterious impact on human health, creating conditions for viral resurgence. The government hopes that the prohibition will add to its fight against the virus, with people celebrating a more eco-friendly Diwali this year by saying no to firecrackers. Girish Chandra Das, Bhubaneswar.
The Uttar Pradesh government has fixed the stock limit of onion in the state to stop further increase of price and to ensure availability of onion to the public. Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath has asked to curb the stock holding and take strict action against defaulters. More details from our correspondent.
As per the government's order, the retail supplier of onion can hold a maximum of 2 metric ton while the wholesale supplier can hold maximum of 25 metric ton. This limit will continue till the end of December this year. Only the exporters have been given relaxation under this rule. Government is very soon going to issue the notification regarding this. A tweet by the Chief Minister's office said that central government has already issued an advisory on the issue on 23rd of October. Before enforcing the stock limit, the suppliers will be given 3 days' time. Sushil Chandra Tiwari, AIR News, Lucknow.
The first phase of the 24th edition of the Malabar Naval exercise began in Visakhapatnam yesterday. Naval forces of India, United States, Japan and Australia are taking part in the exercise. It is being conducted as non-contact exercise at sea in view of COVID-19 pandemic. The operations will showcase synergy and coordination among the friendly navies. Scheduled to be held in 2 phases, Phase 1 of Malabar 20 will witness complex and advanced naval exercises. These include surface, anti-submarine and anti-air warfare operations, cross-deck flying, seamanship evolutions and weapon firing exercises. Meanwhile, Australian Defence Minister Linda Reynolds said the Malabar drill is a milestone opportunity for the Australian Defence Force. She said the exercise showcases the deep trust between 4 major Indo-Pacific democracies and their shared will to work together on common security interests. The Malabar series of naval exercises started in 1992 as a bilateral Indian Navy-US Navy exercise, and Japan joined the naval exercise in 2015.
Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla has said the fact that the Indo-Pacific is the 21st century's locus of political and security concerns and competition is indisputable. He was speaking on India's foreign policy in a post-COVID world at Policy Exchange in the UK yesterday. The Foreign Secretary stressed that in the 21st century, the interconnectedness of the Indo-Pacific is finally coming into full play. He added that a motivating factor is the region's emergence as a driver of international trade and well-being. The Indo-Pacific Ocean System carries an estimated 65% of world trade and contributes 60% of the global GDP. 90% of India's international trade travels on its waters. Foreign Secretary stated that for India and for many others, the shift in the economic trajectory from the Atlantic to the Indo-Pacific has been hugely consequential.
It must also be acknowledged that institution formation in the Indo-Pacific is still at an incipient stage. It took the shock of two world wars in a generation for the Atlantic consensus to be formalized and institutionalized. It is possible that the after effects of the pandemic, the biggest disruption to the global system since the Second World War, could nurture similar approaches in the Indo-Pacific.
He also said that the rise of China and the imperative for a global rebalancing have added to the mix. He further stated that a rules-based international order is achievable only with a rules-based Indo-Pacific. 5 people have died, including an assailant, and 17 others were wounded in a shooting on Monday in Vienna, Austrian authorities said yesterday. Interior Minister Karl Nehammer said 2 men and 2 women have succumbed to the injuries in the attack. A suspended attacker who was shot and killed by the police was a 20-year-old dual citizen of Austria and North Macedonia who had a previous terrorism conviction, a top security official said. Vienna's hospital service said 17 people were being treated in hospitals after the attack and 7 people were in life-threatening condition. Authorities were still trying to determine whether future attackers may be on the run, he said. The attacks that took place on Monday in 6 locations, including near a synagogue, were carried out by several suspects armed with rifles, police said. Prime Minister Narendra Modi yesterday said that he was deeply shocked and saddened by the dastardly terror attacks in Vienna. In a tweet, Mr. Modi said India stands with Austria during this tragic time. He said his thoughts are with the victims and their families.
Polling was held yesterday for the second phase of assembly elections in Bihar. The second and largest phase of election witnessed a voter turnout of more than 54%. Briefing the media in Patna last evening, Chief Electoral Officer H.R. Srinivas said voter turnout will increase after receiving the final figures from remote areas. Earlier, briefing the media in New Delhi, Secretary General of Election Commission of India, Umesh Sinha, informed that the second phase of elections in Bihar covered 94 constituencies across 17 districts. The Election Commission said that nearly 65 crore rupees have been seized to date in Bihar during the ongoing state elections. In the second phase, 1,463 candidates are in the fray. They include 146 women and 1 transgender. The third and the last phase of election in the state will be held on the 7th of this month, and counting will take place on the 10th of November.
Chinese fintech giant Ant Group's dual listing at Shanghai and Hong Kong stock exchanges has been delayed. The largest initial public offering in global finance, worth around $35 billion, has been delayed just 2 days ahead from its trading debut, following a meeting of the group's co-founder Jack Ma by the Chinese market regulators on Monday. The Shanghai Stock Exchange has today decided to temporarily postpone the listing of Ant Group. A statement by Shanghai market operator, as quoted by local media, said, "A meeting between Ant Group's senior executives and China's top financial regulators constituted significant change in the regulatory environment, which may lead to the fintech company not fulfilling the listing and requirements or disclosure rules of the exchange." The first day trading of Ant Group's A shares in Shanghai and the H shares in Hong Kong will be postponed. The 2 exchange operators said in their respective statements there is no indication as to when the trading will commence.
In IPL cricket, Sunrisers Hyderabad thrashed Mumbai Indians by 10 wickets. to seal playoff berth at Sharjah last night. Put into bat first, Mumbai scored 149 for 8 in the allotted 20 overs. In reply, Sunrisers overhauled the target in 17.1 overs, riding on unbeaten opening partnership of David Warner and Riddhiman Saha. Tomorrow, Mumbai Indians will clash with Delhi Capitals at Dubai in the first playoff match. And now let us take a look at the weather forecast for today. The national capital will experience mist. The temperature will hover between 10 and 30 degrees Celsius in New Delhi. In Mumbai, sky will be mainly clear. The minimum temperature was 23 degrees Celsius and the maximum will be around 33 degrees. Chennai is likely to witness generally cloudy sky with light rain. The temperature will hover between 25 and 32 degrees Celsius. Kolkata is also expected to have mainly clear sky with temperature varying between 23 and 31 degrees Celsius. In Jammu, the sky will be generally clear with minimum temperature of 13 and maximum 30 degrees Celsius. Srinagar again will have mainly clear sky, becoming partly cloudy towards afternoon or evening. Minimum temperature in the city was 1 degree Celsius, while the maximum will be around 20 degrees Celsius. In Leh, sky will be partly cloudy, becoming generally cloudy towards afternoon or evening or night. The minimum temperature was -3 degrees Celsius, while the maximum will be around 14 degrees. Gilgit will have mainly clear sky with temperature rising from 1 to 24 degrees Celsius. In Muzaffarabad, the sky will be mainly clear and the temperature will move from 8 to 28 degrees Celsius. In Dehradun, the temperature will hover between 12 and 28 degrees Celsius. The city will have mainly clear sky. Chandigarh sky will be mainly clear with temperature oscillating between 13 and 29 degrees Celsius. In Hyderabad, the minimum temperature was 19 degrees Celsius. Maximum will be around 32 degrees. The city will have partly cloudy sky with haze. Ahmedabad will have clear sky and the minimum temperature was 19 degrees Celsius while the maximum will be around 33 degrees. Patna will see a clear sky with temperature hovering between 15 and 31 degrees Celsius. And Guwahati is likely to have mainly clear sky, becoming partly cloudy towards evening or night, with temperatures hovering between 23 and 33 degrees Celsius.
And now an overview of today's newspapers. Most newspapers today lead with stories on elections in Bihar and the US. With nearly 15 million people voting in 94 constituencies across Bihar, Hindustan Times writes, India gets through biggest poll day in COVID-19 shadow. As the world watches with bated breath the outcome of the world's most significant democratic exercise, Trump-Biden confident as US votes, informs the Asian Age. To meet the objective of accelerating the growth of international investments in the country, PM to brainstorm with Global Fund homes tomorrow. 20 top funds, India Inc. brought to attend roundtable, states the Business Standard. Amid the ongoing tension at the line of actual control, the Malabar series of naval exercises commenced yesterday. To China's chagrin, Australia takes part in Malabar drills, reports the Pioneer. The Tribune takes note of a prolonged dry spell in Himachal Pradesh, affecting the sowing of rabi crops. Spectre of drought looms large over HP. And finally, with signs of economic revival and easing of restrictions on people's movement, jewelers bet on Dhanteras Diwali to regain sheen, writes the Hindu.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. More than 54% voters cast their ballot in second phase of Bihar Assembly elections. Americans vote to elect new president. Close contest on the cards. National COVID-19 recovery rate reaches close to 92%. Odisha bans sale and use of firecrackers in the state. Navies of India, US, Japan and Australia begin Malabar exercise in Visakhapatnam. And in IPL cricket, Sunrisers Hyderabad seals playoff berth by thrashing Mumbai Indians at Sharjah. For details of these stories and more, log on to our website www.newsonair.com and News on AIR app. And with that, we end the morning news. Have a nice day.